Welcome to your ultimate pit stop, Macro Mind. In June 2025, Trump detonated a tariff bomb, doubling steel and aluminum duties to 50%. Canada didn't blink. Instead, it unleashed a calculated counterstrike, real-time tariff triggers, reshoring demands, and ironclad procurement rules. As the clock ticks toward a July 21st trade reckoning, the pressure is building across factories, borders, and boardrooms. What began as a policy move has morphed into an industrial showdown. Now let's lift the hood and examine the pivotal moves, bold strategies, and power shifts transforming this trade clash into a full-blown supply chain war. In June 2025, the Trump administration yanked the pin on what's now a full-blown tariff grenade, doubling steel and aluminum import duties under Section 232, waving the banner of national security. But here's the twist. This wasn't aimed at the usual suspects like China or Russia. Instead, Canada and Mexico, supposed USMCA teammates, got caught in the blast zone. The market's response? A jolt like a misfiring engine. Commodities spun out of control. The US dollar surged past the 1% mark, while manufacturers from Detroit to Windsor hit the panic button, ripping up freight schedules, redrawing supplier contracts, and racing to rebalance inventories. Yet Canada wasn't blindsided. It had already fired its opening shot back in March. 25% retaliatory tariffs, 12.6 billion Canadian dollars on steel, another 3 billion Canadian dollars on aluminum, primed and ready. Then came Trump's 50% surge on June 4th, and suddenly the rules changed. Just weeks later at the G7 summit in Kananaskis, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Trump hashed out a 30-day deadline. Find common ground by July 21st, or brace for economic aftershocks. And just like that, the stopwatch started ticking. This wasn't your average trade spat. This was a high-stakes recalibration of the entire North American supply machine, from the prairie-bound tractors in Alberta to the high-grade aerospace alloys forged in Quebec. It's a deeper stress test, less tit for tat, more strategic systems check on how interlinked and potentially fragile the economic circuits of the continent truly are. And this time, Canada isn't just playing defense. It's taken the wheel, executing a response so methodical, so multi-layered, that it marks the country's most deliberate trade maneuver in decades. Let's dig in and unpack how Ottawa shifted gears into a trade war playbook no one saw coming. Canada didn't flinch. It recalibrated. On June 19th, Prime Minister Carney rolled out a bold new strategy. Starting July 21st, retaliatory tariffs would shift on a dynamic scale. Picture it like an adaptive suspension system, flexing with the terrain. If trade negotiations with the U.S. advance tariffs ease, if talks stall, they tighten automatically. This flexible framework hasn't seen action since 1990, and now it's back as a live pressure valve, regulating cross-border tension in real time. But that's just first gear. By June 30th, all federally backed infrastructure, defense, and automotive contracts in Canada must prioritize domestic producers. U.S. companies can still play ball, but only if they build on Canadian soil. And if you're thinking of sneaking product in via a third-party workaround, think again. Canada's locked that route down too. A 100% tariff rate quota now clamps down on steel from non-FTA nations, pegged to 2024 import volumes. Meanwhile, high-precision tracking systems, including chemical signature analysis, are deployed to detect and block backdoor metals before they ever cross the border. Canada's now firing on all cylinders: precision tariffs, strict sourcing rules, import caps, and forensic-level tracking, all synchronized into a high-performance policy engine. It's forcing OEMs, contractors, and entire supply chains to rewrite their playbooks overnight. Before we shift into overdrive, now's your moment. Hit subscribe and tap that notification bell here at Macro Mind. We've got more deep dives ahead into the front lines of trade and industrial strategy. So, what's next? Canada isn't just hunkering down to defend its turf. It's out to reshape the field entirely. redrawing the competitive landscape and rewriting the rules of engagement for an industry that powers everything from trucks to turbines. Buckle up, this ride is just getting started. Canada didn't just slap on tariffs, it put its money where its policy is. Ottawa launched the Large Enterprise Tariff Loan Facility, unlocking up to 10 billion Canadian dollars in low-interest loans for major Canadian companies bruised by U.S. tariff hikes. But the federal government isn't alone in this charge. Ontario jumped in with the Ontario Together Trade Fund, OTF, funneling grants to small and mid-sized businesses, reshoring essential supply chains under pressure. The goal? Expand domestic production capacity and insulate the province from foreign shocks. Meanwhile, the federal Build Canada Fund is laying down the law. Steel and aluminum used in public infrastructure and defense must be sourced either domestically or from trusted trade partners. That means every dollar of taxpayer investment is being funneled straight into Canadian industries, not offshore suppliers. These aren't band-aids or political optics. They're foundational moves. By tightly linking financing with procurement rules, Canada is shifting gears from reactive defense to proactive industrial strategy. It's about building economic muscle, not just deflecting tariff punches. And the world's taking note. From Brussels to Tokyo, other nations are watching, and some are already sketching out similar playbooks. This isn't just a trade fight, it's the blueprint for a new industrial era. Canada's steel salvo didn't stop at the border, it sent shockwaves across the globe. In Brussels, EU leaders didn't fire back with tariffs, but they're ramping up their arsenal, green steel subsidies, deeper military-industrial coordination, and sovereign supply chain planning. Japan's METI even stepped in with a pledge for emergency aluminum shipments to Canada. Over in Berlin, Germany's Steel Federation hailed Ottawa's strategic speed and urged Brussels to follow suit with urgency. This isn't mere coordination, it's coalition building. Nations with shared interests are linking arms, reframing supply security as a core tenet of modern geopolitics. But not everyone's on board. The U.S. is doubling down. Trade officials dismissed Canada's actions as unnecessary and hinted at WTO challenges. Meanwhile, American industry groups, from Detroit to Dallas, are begging for exemptions, sounding alarms over disruptions to tightly woven auto and aerospace supply chains. As July 21st looms, steel and aluminum have evolved into more than raw materials. They're now the pawns, bishops, and queens in a high-stakes geopolitical chess match, where economic power, diplomatic leverage, and regional resilience are all in play. Global markets are already flinching. The pressure isn't just economic anymore, it's political, strategic, and escalating fast. With July 21st looming, markets are slamming into risk-off mode. Steel premiums out of Cleveland are spiking, driven by mounting fears of tariff turbulence. The Bank of Canada has already raised a red flag. Prolonged trade barriers from either side of the border could feed straight into inflation. Their projection? A staggering 75% pass-through to consumer prices over an 18-month window. Signals are flashing globally. The Bombay Stock Exchange is quietly prepping countermeasures. The U.S. Federal Reserve is walking a wire, balancing the tightrope between cooling domestic inflation and managing escalating geopolitical shocks. Even across the Atlantic, Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey has entered the fray, declaring trade-fueled inflation the new frontier in central bank policy. On the political front, the heat's rising in Ottawa. Opposition parties are demanding faster, harsher retaliation. But Prime Minister Carney is standing his ground, arguing that tight alignment with allies like the EU and Japan is the smarter, long-game play. South of the border, Trump continues to dangle carve-outs while keeping the tariff hammer cocked, awaiting the next round of import lists. This isn't just another trade tiff, it's a high-stakes deadline with continental consequences. Relief or rupture, no one's betting safe. And the clock is ticking. Let's map out where it all leads next. As of June 26, 2025, Canada's strategy has shifted gears, moving from defensive reflex to full-blown doctrine. Ottawa's new playbook, known as the Steel Firewall, isn't just a response, it's a redesign. With auto-escalating tariffs, domestic sourcing rules, targeted financing, and forensic-level traceability, Canada isn't just pushing back, it's building something permanent. This is industrial sovereignty hardwired into supply chains, aimed squarely at fortifying critical sectors like automotive, aerospace, and national infrastructure. And the world is watching, some with curiosity, others with intention. With the July 21st deadline speeding toward us, we're no longer in the realm of tit for tat. This has become a blueprint battle for the very structure of global trade. Will North America find its way back to a harmonized supply chain? Or is this the dawn of a new Cold War, one made not of arms, but of alloys? At this intersection of diplomacy, inflation, and industrial identity, steel and aluminum are no longer just commodities. They're the currency of resilience, power, and strategic intent. Now, we turn it over to you. Is Canada's steel firewall the future of smart industrial policy, or a gamble with unintended blowback? Could we see a wave of similar economic firewalls around the globe? And what does it mean for what we drive, how we work, and where innovation goes from here? We want to hear what's on your dashboard. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Debate, predict, or critique. We're listening. And if this high-octane chapter of economic brinkmanship revs your engine, don't forget to subscribe and punch that notification bell. This is Macro Mind, your ultimate pit stop for strategy, steel, and the shifting gears of global power. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care and stay tuned. There's plenty more just around the bend.